Hi, I'm Terry and I'm nuts about stamping. I'm back today with another Sundays with Sizzix project. It's a wedding card that I'm going to make using my Big Shot and my Delicate Designs embossing folder. I'm actually going to make a wedding card that's a little less formal than what you might think. My son was invited to a wedding at the beach in the coming month, and this is part of the wedding invitation that he received. So it's very informal in nature, perfect for a beach wedding in my humble opinion. So I want to make a wedding card that matches the bride's wedding colors, but also the formality. I'm going to add a little bit of a touch with my Delicate Designs folder. So I'm going to start with a piece of crumb cake cardstock. It's 8.5 by 5.5. I put it on my Simply Scored to create the score line, and that is going to be my card base. And I scored it crookedly, apparently. Let me straighten it out. And then to that, I'm going to add a layer of Night of Navy, because I think that's the Stampin' Up! Color that most closely matches the bride's invitation. So I've cut the Night of Navy cardstock layer to be 1/8 of an inch smaller than my card base. I'll have the measurements, the exact measurements for everything over on my blog. When the video is done, you can check it out over there. All right, so there's my layer. And then I'm going to add to that a layer of Very Vanilla, because the bride used a Very Vanilla sort of color cardstock on her invite. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring in the Delicate Designs embossing folder. And this is the formal touch I'm adding to the front of my card. I just really like, when it's a wedding card, to have a little bit of a pizzazz to it. All right, I've got it in my folder. I've got my Big Shot on tab 1, bottom standard cutting pad, the folder with the cardstock inside, top standard cutting pad, hold it in place, and run it through the Big Shot. And then I have a beautiful embossed layer. Now the next thing I want to do is add a stamped image to the front of my card, and I really like the Love and Laughter stamp set, and I'm going to use the wedding cake as opposed to the wedding dress. I think the wedding dress is a little bit more formal in nature, so I'm going to ink up using Night of Navy, again coordinating colors, and I'm going to stamp that down. I like to use my grid sheet or my grid paper to help me figure out where I should place it and to make sure that I'm about as even as I can possibly be. There we go. And I'm done with the cake and the Night of Navy ink. And then I'm going to use Crumb Cake, which is one of the coordinating colors, and my card base color. And I'm going to ink up the little flower image that's in the stamp set. And I'm going to put a flower image in the corner there, and a flower image in the corner there. There we go. And then I have some Crumb Cake taffeta ribbon that I'm going to put at the bottom of my card front. So I'm going to flip this over and put a line of adhesive on either side, and that will hold my ribbon in place. Run that along the line that was created by the embossing folder. Fold this around somewhat tightly, but not too tight, because I don't want to have the card front sort of wow. There we go. And then I'm going to turn it over, put adhesive on the back, and attach it to the card. And again, this is a 1/4 inch smaller all around. And there we go. Now that's a really pretty card. It's very plain and simple. I still want to fancy it up a little bit more. So before the video began, when I sort of designed this idea in my mind, I created a second cake and just cut around it using my paper snips. I didn't want you to have to suffer through watching me cut the cake out. So I did that before the video began. So essentially when I stamped the first one here, I also would have stamped a second one straight away on a piece of scrap Very Vanilla cardstock. And I'm going to just lift this up as a layer like that. Just adds a nice touch. And then I also did the same thing with the flowers. I used crumb cake and I stamped and cut around, quite crudely I might add. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm going to put a half a Stampin' Dimensional on the back, peel off the tail, and then I'm going to add the flowers at the top of the cake. And then the last thing I'm going to do, because every card has to have a little bit of bling on it, I've got some basic pearls. And I have my paper piercing tool, just because that's how I pick up my pearls off of the pad. So I'm going to take a really tiny one and put it in the center of that flower, and another really tiny one, put it in the center of that flower, and then I've got some paper snips, and I have these long lines of pearls, but they're attached together by like a little adhesive string. So I'm just going to cut one of them off. I wanted a larger pearl, there we go, for the center of the larger flower. And there we go. There's my wedding card that will somewhat match the wedding invitation in style and in nature. For a complete listing of the supplies and the measurements for this card, hop on over to my blog, www.nutsaboutstamping.com. While there, you can place an order for the supplies used to make this card or any other cards you want to make. Check out lots of other sample ideas. Make sure you're a subscriber to my newsletters. I send out 2 or 3 newsletters a month. I have an additional scrapbooking one if you scrapbook. And you can just ask me a question. Look at my clubs, my classes, and my announcements. I'm Terri. I'm nuts about stamping. See you next time. Bye for now.